congratulations, this was so much fun. And I have to be super honest. My other writer is a skydiver, and so she was really excited to cover this film, and we rounded her to cover it, and she couldn't get in time, so I was like, I don't know if I can watch it, I'm so afraid, I don't know, you should do it. She was like, I can't. So I went into it, and I was a little nervous, because I'm not a skydiver, I'm afraid of heights, and I was like, am I going to be bored? Because sometimes documentaries are boring. I cried, I laughed, I was so emotional through this, so thank you so much for doing it, because it was so much fun.
Oh, good. That's great. I'm glad it was fun. That's important.
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I mean, as a filmmaker, how amazing was it to get all this footage? Because this was amazing footage that was shot with, you know, I loved the parts where they were like, the camera, the footage was the most important. Who cared about anything else? How amazing was that for you?
It was amazing, and it was an honor to get to use Carl's footage, you know, and to I mean, you know, he was such a, I think he was such a perfectionist in a lot of the work that he did, and it was amazing. It was an amazing experience, for sure.
And I loved, I might get emotional just talking about it. Watching you kind of come in and you guys kind of fall in love, and there was that moment where you said, you know, it was a matter of a couple weeks, and all of a sudden it was life together, not just dating. I mean, that doesn't happen very often. No. So how special was that for you guys to kind of meet each other and be able to decide that so quickly?
I think we knew that it was unique. It's not something you'd actually recommend to your daughter or son that the fourth time you meet each other, you're engaged to be married.
Yeah.
So it was a very fast process for us, but we had prepared ourselves for each other in the way we participated in life and approached life up to that point. I was very young. Carl was much more experienced and had his own business, but we both cared a great deal about the approach that we had to life, about curiosity, discovery, trying new things, and only doing good things, and not hurting anybody, and trying to make things better, and trying to leave something of value that would help everybody on the earth, everybody everywhere.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons why I think everyone needs to see this film. I think just that answer exactly is, I mean, I got something out of it that I didn't expect to. And you go into it, think you're just watching this documentary about this amazing man, but you get so much more, I'm getting the goosebumps, you get so much more feeling and emotion out of it, and it teaches you so many amazing life lessons. How did this project come to you?
My uncle was a base jumper and aerial cinematographer,
awesome.
And he actually died in an automobile accident. So people talk about base jumping and they're like, oh my gosh, he was actually a base jumper and skydiver for quite some time. And I found this amazing footage that he had left of base jumping, but also some of Carl and Jean at the Guinness Book of World Records. So I found that very early on. But then I was making a short about my uncle, and I eventually found Jean. But it was, I was very inspired by the footage from very early on. I could see that, I really liked all the people in the footage. Like it was really enjoyable to watch, and there was a sense of joy and a sense of enthusiasm and beauty that I really responded to. So, yeah.
It's one of the things I loved about seeing Carl's footage is that you knew that he was just such a special person, and he had this spark of enthusiasm, and you just were drawn to him. I mean, immediately, with how excited he was about everything and the people that he brought in. And what I loved about it is, now when you see people doing some of these things, they're always looking for sponsors or fame or all these things, and he was just really doing this because he wanted other people to learn from it, whether it was base jumping or skydiving or just to, like he said, run a marathon. So how wonderful was that to be a part of, to see those changes in him and other people?
Well, this was Carl's labor of love, and everything that he approached as a labor of love, because he knew that it was the childlike joy that needed to be shared, and that never does harm to anybody. And so by him pursuing his labor of love, and in a pure way, he knew that it wasn't causing harm, and whatever hurdles came up or whatever hardships, they just simply needed to be bypassed. You just work through them, take the steps that needed to be taken, and it was lovely to have our lives mesh, and for him to embrace me as his partner in doing this, and the fact that it was something we were both interested in doing independently of each other was wonderful, and the fact that we could share it with a receptive community of not just jumpers, but people who would watch our activities or want to participate by helping or sharing it with their families. That was a wonderful thing. And so when Marah and I got together, I knew the importance of being able to convey the same message, and the precious value of having it come about a second time in a lifetime, so that people can see that the power of the strength of the purity never goes away, that love is the carrier for all time. And even if we've made mistakes, they can be instantly erased as soon as we identify them and say, oh, that was a mistake. Okay, we'll fix it. And we just peacefully, harmoniously fix it together in a brotherly way to make things better for everyone.
Were you, when you first started jumping with Carl, I'm sure, were there a lot of women jumping then, or was it predominantly men?
I think in skydiving it's always been about 10% female.
Okay.
Yet, my entire life with Carl and everything we did, there was never a gender issue or separation. You'd never know that gender was a factor in anything. It wasn't. It was all about ideas. And when people are pursuing good ideas together, there's no discrimination of any kind. It's just simply looking at it and going, is this a good idea? Oh, let's all do it. And it's enthusiastically pursued by everybody. And then people's talents fall into their natural niches. And you learn very quickly a real experience of leadership and how to help people coordinate and organize so that they are doing what they want to do, and they're happy in their labors, and they're getting the most from them. And it can definitely be an eye-opener to the way our society currently approaches things.
Yeah, for sure. I love that, because I feel like there's so many things where gender is brought up, and I love that was never an issue, because now it does not seem that way. So it's wonderful that you guys had such a wonderful community, that there was never that issue. How long was this process for the two of you, from start to finish?
A very long time. I say 80 years. I think she says longer. It was a long process, and I didn't have a lot of money when I began the project, nor when I ended it.
Yeah.
So we'd make a little film or make a little bit of it, and then we'd go away and try to do more. And I was also working really intensely as an editor during the process, doing commercial work in New York, doing a lot of different things.
Yes,
so I had to do like a lot of other things while I was doing this project. So of course it always is a longer process when that occurs. So yeah, it was a long process.
Marah's been very gracious over the many years of me spilling out everything unto her, everything she did want to know and everything she didn't want to know, everything that she wanted to understand the experience of, and things that nobody would want to have to understand the experiences of. Yet, in making a film and doing it justice and being true to the nature of the subject, all of which Marah did very well and were important to her as an editor and a director and a filmmaker, these were things that made her the right person for the project to be able to convey an honest viewpoint. And it's something that I greatly value, and I think that we've hopefully both grown through.
But Jean was very wonderful in that she didn't look at the film until it was already going to Toronto.
Wow.
So that was very trusting and wonderful that I had that ability to do that. So that, I mean, as much as, you know, we worked together on it, it was also great that she gave me the trust that I needed in order to make a film that was, you know, from a filmmaker's point of view, and wasn't, you know, just kind of talking about the activity from the inside. I mean, it definitely, I'm not a base jumper, I'm not a skydiver, so it just, you know, for me, it was important to also realize what would be interesting to somebody who wouldn't base jump or skydive about this world. So, yeah.
We respected each other's visions.
Yeah.
I knew from the beginning how important a lot of this information was to get out into the world. And Marah had a vision about what would be the way to do that, that would be the best way at this point in time. And it's sometimes good to let the other person just craft it on his own, and just to not have any input. I mean, even about certain things like filming. The first time I ever filmed Carl jumping out of a hot air balloon, I went out on my back before him, and he was wise enough to know not to say to me, "You can't do that. It's never been done and nobody can do it," because they don't think they can do it. And and it worked out magnificently. And so Marah kept things to herself in her crafting process that she knew she needed to keep close to her. And we needed to have a relationship where we respected what was and wasn't said, so that we could add what would be of value, but also be true to ourselves in the final product. I think because she did what she felt needed to be done, and she was listening to her own intuitions rather than other people saying, "You should do this, you should do that, you should do it this way, or leave this out, or put that in." The messages that she chose to follow were her own messages, and those are the most valuable. And that's what we learned in base jumping too, is to identify the right messages and to follow those and let the others fall by the wayside. And I think this film, in the way it has developed and the final product, reveals how wonderful things can be when all of that respect is given.
And I know I have to let you go, so I just have to ask quickly. I love that Carl was such a part of this documentary. Obviously, with all his footage, he was a part of telling his own story. But what do you both want people to get from seeing the film? What's your goal of viewers? What do you want them to feel or get from it?
Well, you know, I mean, for me, I want people to enjoy it. And I know that's rare in saying in a documentary, but I want it to be a theatrical, enjoyable experience that people can really immerse themselves in. I didn't have a particular agenda in the sense of I want people to understand this. It's not an issue film. I want people to enjoy a story that is inspirational, and sometimes there's some sadness, but you know, it's really about living your life and in a beautiful and authentic way.
And if you feel the joy, then you realize that there's something that's real, that's not necessarily tangible. And from there, I think perspectives will blossom in each individual's own time.
Well, thank you guys so
Thank
much.
you.
It was such a pleasure to talk to you both.
I'm glad you enjoyed the